All right. St. Louis game tomorrow. I know last time around there was a whole lot of emotion going on within the week. How have you been able to kind of coach it? Maybe do you feel like that environment helped the emotion of the game? And then how do you kind of recreate maybe emotion necessary for a derby match like this?
Well, I think the excitement for the game, knowing that we're going up against our rival, gives us energy in what's otherwise a busy week. Coming off the Portland game just a couple days ago, we're excited for the opportunity to go to St. Louis. It's a great environment. So to manufacture something or to try to raise the emotional excitement, I've had to do very little. The guys are eager. They're ready to get back out there. So we're excited for the opportunity.
Since you've been in this league, I know Sporting hasn't quite had a rivalry like this yet. What makes this one different than some of the ones that you've seen in the past that have been more competitive rivalries with teams like Houston and RSL, and even at times, the Galaxy just being kind of who they are?
Well, I just think the history between the two cities, it kind of carries over into the sport of soccer. And so I think it's a great rivalry. As you reference, it's our best rival that we've had over the years. The first couple games that we faced, and then of course the playoffs of a couple of years ago, the tensions just kept rising, and it's maintained that high level of competitiveness and emotion, and that's what you want from a rival and in a game like this. So we're expecting no different as we go there, that the tensions will be high, the excitement will be high, and what a great environment to play in.
Defensively, it feels like this team has made some big strides forward. Obviously, the goal in Portland, not a ton you guys can do about that one. But I guess what have your takeaways been about the defensive performance recently? Well,
as much as we've pointed, it seems like in recent games, to the performance of our goalkeepers or our center backs, it's been the collective. Every man, all the way up to the center forward, has contributed and has been conscientious about being better defensively. And I think between the individual performances and the collective, I think that's the end result, is that you end up being a more difficult team to play against.
And then going forward, I mean, you guys had a stretch where you were scoring a ton of goals. Now some of those chances have dipped a little bit. Do you feel like this is kind of just the natural flow of things, or I guess what have your thoughts been about that?
Yeah. I think to expect 4 or 5 goals a game was unrealistic. I think we've kind of, not reduced ourselves. We kind of have arrived at more of the average, if you will, but still, even with that, since April 1st, we're still punching above what we did in the first part of the year. So I'm pleased with that. We'd like to create more opportunities, but I think that's the pursuit of most teams, if not every team in this league, that they want to try to be more convincing in the final third, and so we're no different. What I will say is that I get the sense that now teams understand that we can attack. So they're paying more attention. Even in Portland, they sat a little bit deeper, and that was part of the game state, having been up 1-0. But I do believe that teams are now taking us more seriously, that we have the opportunity and the ability to score goals, and that certainly helps on the defensive side as well.
I understand the other teams are, focusing a little bit more on defending you guys, but is it also a little bit of a balance that you focus more on, trying to score goals early when you took over, and now it's, trying to, shore up the defense? Is it kind of just a natural ebb and flow of how you're trying to manage the team and coach them to be better? Yeah,
look, we had to address a lot of things, and I would include set pieces in that attacking and defending aspects of being better in, and that's another area where we've improved on. And so it has been this fine balance of emphasis over the course of the week while preparing for the upcoming opponent. And not everything's going to be perfect. It's not going to be this linear progression where you just now rocket into the sky. And so we will have our ebbs and flows, and we will have our games where we score a lot of goals, and games in the last game where we created a few chances and didn't score any. And so that's just the nature of the season, the nature of how games are played. But what I've been pleased with is that the approach from the group has been consistent, and we're stabilizing in that way in that we go out expecting to win games, whereas before I think we were trying to survive the games.
We just talked to Jansen. Obviously, he's still a rookie. He's learning a lot and all that. But can you just talk about the progression he's made? And he's a regular starter, and then the challenge facing going into a rival city that's also his home city. All that.
Yeah, I think all players, especially first-year players, will go through that cycle of the ups and downs, and learning what it takes to search for consistency over the course of a season, and he's in his first year, and so those ebbs and flows will be real. We've seen a few of them, but what's been great about Jansen is that he's always taken what is perceived as a lesser game and followed it up with a better game, and so that is a great mentality, a great approach, a great way of thinking that the past is in the past and you're on to the next, and so his maturity for his age has really shown through this season. He's taken on a big responsibility, maybe more than what we had anticipated when we drafted him just a few months ago. He's now a main figure in the center part of our defense, and so that speaks very highly of how he approaches his profession and his mindset of how he approaches every day.
Kerry, you've been in Kansas City a long time, so I'm curious, how would you kind of characterize the rivalry between Kansas City and St. Louis? Maybe not just soccer, but just overall.
Well, when I first got here, it was more of the history between the Royals and the Cardinals, and it took me a few years to really understand the venom and the emotion associated between the rivalry. But as St. Louis has come into Major League Soccer, I clearly feel it and see it now. It's hard to say the hatred. I think it is a mutual respect, but the emotions are always high no matter what you're competing in, whether it's baseball. Fortunately, we have a football team, but in the soccer field, we can feel the rivalry.
And the Royals actually play the Cardinals later this week. I don't know if you knew that. So rivalry week.
I do. It's rivalry week.
It is. Kerry, when the team is defending well and you lose on the back of 2 bikes, do you see any frustration in the defense, knowing that they definitely performed well enough to come away with a result, only to be undone by a couple of wonder goals?
Yeah, I think the guys even came out of this last game knowing that we could have and should have deserved more in terms of the result. Not saying we should have gotten 3 points, but we were good enough to at least come away with a point. But what I'm incredibly pleased with is that their approach to the result is not to get their heads down and think, here we go again. It's quite the opposite. They're waiting to get back on the field. They're excited about the opportunity, and that has been a complete mind shift from what was previously within the group. And so that's probably the piece that I'm most excited about and what I believe most in this group.
Stylistically, Portland, very athletic, very fast. St. Louis likes to play more physical style of game up front. So how do you approach those just contrasting styles in such a short window to prepare for as well?
Yeah, I think in a rivalry game, you have to throw a lot of the nuances and the tactics out the window. First and foremost, you have to come and compete. You have to have the energy. You have to compete in the key moments of the game, whether it's second balls, it's long balls. The game is a little bit more direct, the set pieces within the game. And so those are the moments that usually turn the tie in a rivalry game. Due to the emotion, the commitment from everyone on the field, those are the little things that make up the final result.
A big key to that success a couple years ago when you guys turned things around after the first 10 games of the season was avoiding defeat in back-to-back games. Is that something you guys think about, or was it a product of good results?
No, we just try to be better the next game and not let the previous performance, not dwell on it for too long. And so when you have that approach and you have that confidence internally that you can make a previous result that didn't go your way in the positive direction, I think that speaks to the belief and the trust that the group has within each other.
How's the overall health going into this one? I know Kyrie and, I think Jake kind of got a little bit more minutes there in that game. How would you kind of assess the health of the group going into tomorrow night?
I think the health is excellent. We may have one player, no one's in the training room. Everyone's out on the field and everyone's participating in training. So from that perspective, we feel really good with where we're at in terms of health.
I think you said last week Logan's ended up being it's going to be a really short term. What exactly was the issue there, and just how short term is short term?
Yeah, he had a muscular injury. I believe it was the adductor, but he's out on the field. He's running around. He's cutting. He's moving, and he's participating. So I believe going into the Portland game, I said it wasn't a long-term injury, and so far that's still the case. He's very close.